Hi, Greg Hoffman here, co-owner of Urban Palm Personal Training Studio. It's a nice, balmy September day, a little on the chilly side. The reason I'm shooting this video is because I want to talk a little bit about diet, not much, just a little bit. Like, what is it that we eat in general and what the overview of our policy is. We favor a low carbohydrate diet, not necessarily paleo versus keto or anything like that. Just more on the lower carb side, higher fat, good fats, and moderate protein, I think is the best way to describe what we do. And it has elements of the paleo, it has elements of the keto, and we just kind of oscillate depending on what kind of food supplies we have and what we're in the mood for. But in general, we eat a lower carbohydrate diet. And what I mean by that is we stay away from many carbs that most people put on their plates when they have their meals. Rice, potatoes, bread, pasta, things along those lines. It doesn't mean that we don't eat vegetables. We do. We eat plenty of vegetables. It's just that it's not the carbohydrate-rich kind that tends to take up a lot of the plate. So, one of the benefits of eating a keto diet, really at the end of the day, the main one that I like to focus on is that eating a lower carbohydrate diet, staying away from those superfluous carbohydrates, if you will, is that it helps keep the insulin levels low. Insulin, chronically high insulin levels in the body is what drives fat storage, is the problem that people have with losing fat simply because they have insulin levels too high. It's not a calorie in, calorie out thing. It's just their insulin levels are too high, chronically elevated. It makes it very difficult for the body to tap into fat stores to be able to use it for energy. Another question that people seem to have as far as our clients are concerned and people that we know when we talk about our lower carb diet, a lot of people think that eating a low carb, high fat diet like what we do tends to be more expensive than eating the more carbohydrate rich types of foods. And I can see that because when you take a look at what's on most people's plate, you add rice, you add bread, you do a lot of pasta. Those things are pretty cheap. And I think the reason why people like to eat them is because it adds more filler for their meals. They can feel full more, or in theory. Well, I don't think that it's necessary for you to feel full. First of all, if you eat a higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet, you tend to get full on less overall calories anyway. So if you have, let's say, if you have your meal without bread and without rice, and you have add some more fats to that meal, cost-wise, it'll be about the same, and you'll feel fuller longer. The other good thing about a lower carb, high fat diet like this is that since you do feel fuller longer, you don't snack as much as you otherwise would. Good example is both Sharon and I. We really don't eat anything until about noon, then it's a small snack. And then usually we don't have anything till our evening meal. We just don't eat much, and a large part of that is because we're just simply not hungry because we feel full longer. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the cost, it would even out about the same, probably a little bit better, I'd say, favoring the low carbohydrate diet. One other point I want to make about a higher fat diet, we can go on, but I want to keep this short. The other point that I want to make that I feel is very important about a higher fat diet, it's got to be good fats. Let's be clear about that. We're talking monounsaturated fats, fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids. And then the other one that's really important, ironically, is saturated fats for good health. Stay away from the polyunsaturated fats, the vegetable oils, the industrial oils, hydrogenated oils. Those are all really, really bad. They're just plain bad. And that's a topic for another day. But the main point I want to make about these good fats is that our body uses it for a lot of good things. First of all, our sex hormones are made with saturated fat. We don't have enough saturated fat in our body. Our bodies can't make those kind of sex hormones. It's much more difficult for the body to do. The other thing that saturated fats are good for is it works as a surfactant for the lungs. It actually, what I mean by surfactant is that it actually makes the lungs more it kind of acts like a lubricant so that the lungs are able to breathe more easily. They're able to exchange the gases the way they're supposed to, and it adds a good layer of protection for the lungs against things like a virus. Imagine that. So saturated fats, I think, is really good for that. And if the body doesn't have enough saturated fats, it has to use the polyunsaturated fats, basically what people eat, that is much less stable, solid and stable. I think that's about it. Once again, I can go on, but those are the main points I want to make about our diet, about thinking about going more low carb, high fat, moderate protein diets. There's a lot of benefit to it, certainly on the health side. Once again, Gregg Hoffman, co-owner of Pump Personal Training Studios. Thank you for watching.